My name is Julie Turney, and this is the HR Sound Off podcast show, the show created for HR and business professionals to discuss pertinent topics and trends as it relates to our professions. We're going to have amazing conversations with HR professionals from all over the world, get to learn their origin stories. How did they get into this profession? What do they love about being here? And how they want to set the record straight on that one misconception that really drives them crazy about our profession. Are you ready? I'm ready. Then let's sound off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the HR Sound Off podcast show. My name is Julie Turney, and I am your host. And I am so excited today to actually have this episode live and direct. As you know, for the last couple of months, our podcast has been sponsored by AbilitiCBT. And today I'm happy to have with me Paula Allen. Hi, Paula. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to be here.
Great. It's good to have you here. And so this episode today is more like a meet the sponsor, but meet Paula and get to know a lot more about her and learn more about AbilitiCBT. So Paula, one of the questions that I asked right off the bat is just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Paula Allen and how did you get here?
Okay, who am I? How did I get here? Okay. I am my wife, mother, daughter, sister. I'm an immigrant to Canada. I was born in Jamaica. Ooh. I came here when I was 4. And very much still into the culture as well as Canadian culture. I actually started my career working with children. So I was very, very fascinated with child development and mental health from a couple of different points of view, and started working with children who had multiple of needs. So learning disabilities, mental health needs, and I really took the point of view of assessment and support as well as counseling. So neuropsychological assessment and counseling. Okay. And as things evolve, I started working with adults, with head injury, and then adults in other contexts. And really very much still had that view of figuring out what's the best thing to help move people forward in a problem-solving sort of way, help people build the skills that'll help them deal with whatever their situation is. Because if you have a head injury or if you have a learning challenge, you're not going to change yourself, but you can develop some amazing skills to do what you want to do and need to do and still be at the top of your scale. And that's what I've applied through to adults and worked in a number of different areas, disability management and EAP and training. And right now I'm the global head of research for LifeWorks.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I've got to ask you, okay, so you said a lot there, but you said a lot. But what stood out for me is you said you have your background is from Jamaica, which resonates with me because that's the same. Like my dad was from Jamaica, so Jamaica is very much in my roots as well. I gotta ask, what's your favorite dish?
Breadfruit. Absolutely. Breadfruit. Yeah.
Fried, boiled, how? It doesn't matter anyway.
All of the above, but roasted and then refried. That's the way I like it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, okay. We can hang. Definitely. I love me some breadfruit. The Caribbean flavor lives no matter what.
Without question. Once you've tasted it, that's it. That's your favorite food. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. So AbilitiCBT is part of the LifeWorks group, but tell us a little bit about LifeWorks and then tell us about AbilitiCBT.
Yeah. Well, LifeWorks helps organizations help their people. So we work with businesses, we work with post-secondary institutions, we also work with governments, and really we focus on helping people be their best, whatever that best means. So we have services that help people in terms of, crisis situations with mental health. We help people with parenting. We help people with helping them, manage stress, work stress, personal stress, pandemic stress.
Yes.
So we have a big focus on mental health, the full continuum of mental health, but we also help people with other things, financial well-being, physical health and well-being and wellness, and workplace well-being and manager training. So a number of things.
Awesome. And AbilitiCBT now falls under that space in terms of people having readily easy access from an EAP perspective to this program, right?
Well, absolutely. People can access it in a number of different ways. So in Ontario, Manitoba, we actually work with governments, and it's available, sponsored by those provincial governments, free of charge to residents. And we also offer it through employers. And you can, if your organization is connected with Lifeworks, there's a good chance that your employer has made this available as well. So there's a few different ways that it can be accessed. And again, it's been amazing, particularly over the last little while, because as you know, as well as I know, life has gotten more complicated.
Very much so, very much so.
Oh my goodness. So the ability to just go into the program at any time of the day for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, while you're dealing with your busy life, while you're in lockdown, while you're sort of navigating through all the different stressors that we have that support on demand has been like gold. And, I think one of the important things about the AbilitiCBT is that even though, the core program is available 24/7 and, you can work at your own pace and you can develop your own skills, you also have a therapist there with you. So a therapist is in the background. The therapist is available for you to reach out to. You have the best of both worlds, that full independence in terms of how you manage the program, while you have the support of a professional as well.
I think that's really amazing that actual governments have taken up the mantle to say we want to help our people's mental health, and that they're using, the service to actually do that to help people in general versus, organizations doing it, but that organizations have the accessibility to include it in their EAP is golden as well. I know this has been a really crazy time for the entire world. What would you say there's been an increase in people using the service as a result of COVID, pandemics, social, political unrest?
Oh my Lord. Yes, I mean, there's definitely been an increase, in particular in the complexity of issues. So one thing that we absolutely know is that there's more mental health need. This past 2 years has been pretty rough on all of us. And for some, it has been more than just rough. It's really been life-changing. It's really been destabilizing. Matter of fact, the number of people who are at high risk for mental health issues has tripled over the past 3 years. And, even if you're not in that high risk category, the level of edge and stress, so the need is greater. And we've seen more complexity of issues, which is actually something I want to speak to as well, because a lot of people, because you have AbilitiCBT online, like that's your first touch. A lot of people think of it as being for lightweight issues, and that is not the way that this was designed. It was designed to give you what you need. And many people, and we've seen many people come through the program with pretty complex issues, really high on the severity scale. And their improvement has been astounding. So the way it's designed, it really meets people where they're at. If your issues are less complex, then your experience is going to be matched to that as well.
That's absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that you exist, that you're out there supporting and helping people, because we really do need it. What advice would you give to organizations right now in terms of helping them to recognize the importance of talking about mental health in the workplace and making people feel psychologically safe to engage in programs such as what you're offering?
Yeah, well, I love the term psychologically safe. It's so important. When you're under, just think about just the normal human response to things. When you're under stress, the normal response, like if you take away what you're taught, if you take away your fears and all of the rest of that, your normal human response is to talk. The normal human response is to reach out to someone else. The normal human response is to share. And you're not going to do that if you feel that it's going to damage you. You're not going to do that if you feel that you won't be supported. So allowing people to sort of be authentic in terms of what their experience is, just showing empathy. Just making sure that there is no way in the world that any way in your language or behavior you're stigmatizing, just people being normally humanly vulnerable I think it's much more important than people realize, because it is such a basic human need that when we don't have it, nothing works after that,
It's so true. I love what you said about, being humanly valuable, like recognizing that as human beings, we should be able to have that access and feel safe enough to be able to participate in that. And I think for a lot of organizations, you still hear people saying that there's this huge stigma attached to mental health. You're still seeing a lot of organizations that don't have any form of employee assistance in their organizations. And I really think that it's something that we really need to, speed the charge on and speak more about, because we're all going through a lot of stuff right now. And however we were handling it prior to what was happening 2 years ago, we're not handling it the same right now,
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely more vulnerable to stress. When you're under stress for a long period of time, you actually become more vulnerable to it.
Yeah,
it impacts you a bit more. I think the one of the good things out of this pandemic, though, is that more and more business leaders are realizing everything that you just said. They're realizing that to stigmatize people, to alienate them, to not provide them with support because you think that they're not deserving of support in terms of mental health, that's becoming less so. I think this pandemic has touched so many people directly and through families that the whole idea of stigmatizing around mental health is starting to feel more appropriately ridiculous. So we're shifting that, but we're obviously not fully there. There's still some work to do, and I think the more we understand what mental health, how they arise, what they look like, how you can be a top performer and still, have a mental health diagnosis. The more we have that knowledge, the more that the stigma will go away.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I'm seeing room for positive change. And I hope that it continues on this trend and that organizations, get more supportive around helping their employees, and governments too.
And governments
I hope they take an example from what you guys are doing there in Canada, and would offer the same assistance to their citizens as well.
I think that the other thing around mental health is, it's so interesting how, odd human beings can be and how they look at things, right? Like when you look at mental health, so many people are saying, well, I'm really struggling, but it's not bad enough for me to get help, right? There's almost as if there's this invisible threshold that you don't deserve to move forward, or you're worried about. I don't even know. It doesn't make any sense, but it's so common. And I think, if any other health issue, like really seriously, would you ever think of saying, I have a cancer, but I'm going to wait until stage 4 before I deal with it?
Definitely not. definitely not. You're going to deal with it there and then.
Exactly.
So definitely point taken. And I hope that everyone who is listening to this podcast takes that point seriously, because when we wait till things really deteriorate, then we're in mental health crisis. That's not pretty at all.
It's not, yeah.
No.
It makes things more complex to deal with and harder to deal with. But also think of all the lost days, where your quality of life isn't what it should be. And nobody should lose any more of their quality of life than they need to.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Paula. I appreciate it. And also for sharing with us what you're doing and what your services involve and how we can benefit from them. Thank you. We will return to my interview in a moment, but first, a word from our sponsors, AbilitiCBT. AbilitiCBT is an internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy program designed to provide effective mental health care to people dealing with a variety of concerns, including anxiety, depression, trauma, and grief, and more. The program is guided by experienced therapists who are there to help you understand and navigate your mental health concerns and build long-lasting coping skills. Accessible from any device at any time, AbilitiCBT is delivered through a secure digital platform to combine the benefits of in-person therapy with the convenience of virtual access to fast, easy, and effective support. AbilitiCBT offers a targeted program to help address mental health concerns related to the uniquely challenging aspects of pandemics, including uncertainty, isolation, burnout, caring for family and community members, information overload, and stress management. AbilitiCBT can be accessed online at myicbt.com or by downloading the AbilitiCBT app from the Google Play or App Store. You deserve to feel better. We now return to our interview. I want to ask you this. What are you reading, watching, listening to right now that you think our audience would enjoy?
Okay, well, I don't know if you're going to enjoy it, but I'll just share.
Sure.
One of the things is I do read a lot, just because it's not just my job, it's my personal passion around around mental health, around how it's impacting people at work, around the dynamics, the things that have been changing, and getting different perspectives. So we're not only looking at it from a research point of view, but we're also looking at it just in terms of articles and different thought leaderships, because I think it's a good thing to have a good handle on things that are important in life. I also read a lot about this Metaverse. Because how is this going to impact our minds? How is this going to impact our work? How is this going to impact us socially? And at the risk of plugging, but I'll plug anyway, in terms of television and streaming or whatever, I am one of those people who is obsessed with the show Succession.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen it,
I have not.
It is a perfect example of, Julie, the opposite of what you said. It shows us really seriously psychologically unsafe environment.
Wow.
But they do it in such a way that you leave saying, not only is it entertaining, but you leave learning around what not to do in terms of interrelating with other people.
Succession. What is that showing on, so we can find it?
It is I believe it's Netflix. Yeah, but don't. I hesitate to be quoted on that, but I believe that if you Google it, you'll find a lot of information on it, where it is. But again, it's one of those things, because you almost have to be clear on what's good and what's not good to figure out where you should be.
Sure. But, interestingly enough, when you talked about the metaverse and learning more about it, I'm just thinking, how so many interactions of the future are going to be in that space. And I'm wondering, as mental health care providers, how you will facilitate that space for people that actually want to be serviced in that space.
Yeah, I think that there is a risk as well as that there is an opportunity. Number one, this is going to be a natural evolution in terms of how we play. It already is in many situations, but also how we work, how we get support, how we interact with each other. I think the important thing is that as these experiences are being designed and curated, you know, that you think no one has control over them, but they think about mental health. They think about some of our basic human needs, which is to feel a sense of belonging, to feel connected to other people, to be able to be who we are, to be ourselves. And when you have those things and you also have a sense of personal control, then you're in a pretty good place. If it's unsafe, you know, like, you know, some social media doesn't feel very safe at times. Yeah, exactly. If you don't feel that you have personal control in terms of your own, you know, being and image and choices and life, if you feel that you have to be someone else, that you're going to be like, there's all sorts of things that as this kind of evolution of our experience is happening, we have to be careful that we don't create a version of the world that brings out the worst of the world, that we create versions of the world that are actually healthy. So I think it remains to be seen, but there's definitely a lot of people thinking about it in the same way that I am, in terms of just making it something positive for our society. Otherwise, then it could be another problem to solve.
Another problem to solve, exactly, yes. Thank you so much for chiming in on that. So let me ask you, what advice would you give to your younger self entering the world of work when it comes to being safe mentally and creating good boundaries and so on in the workplace? What advice would you give to your younger self, younger Paula, now entering the workforce for the first time?
Younger Paula had much bigger hair, and but what would I give other than advice on the hair? I would tell the younger Paula to trust my own voice a little bit more. I spent a lot of time with thinking, like, you're in a work situation and you think of something, you know, you have an idea, you have a way to solve a problem, and, you know, because you're younger, you think, well, you know, I won't say it because it's obvious. Other people must have thought about it, and maybe there's some reason why they're not moving forward, right? So I would keep silent a lot more than I think I should have. It took me it took me a long time to realize that, you know, my voice has value, right? And maybe somebody else did think about it, but it doesn't mean that I don't have the right to say. And more often than not, other people didn't, and it would have been very helpful, right? So I think sometimes we just assume, you know, our place in an environment and not really be our full selves. So, you know, it is just a matter of being who you are, trusting what you're thinking and speaking.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I over the last couple of years, I've told myself I should never take for granted that people know what I know. So
absolutely,
very similar lines, but yes, I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. And my last question to you, this is with a little twist. So one of the conversations that I've been having over the last couple of months with HR professionals is about how many of them actually use their employee assistance program. So they help create them, they work with benefits people to put these programs in place, but as HR themselves, they're not using these programs. A lot of them sometimes forget. Sometimes as HR professionals, we think, you know, we create these things for the people, forgetting that we're the people too. What advice would you give to HR professionals that are not engaging in these EAP programs, but definitely need them?
And put your mask on first. I mean, you can be working to help others, but if you're not taking care of yourself in that process, then you're not going to do anything sustainable.
Yes.
So I think it is important that, and it's not just HR professionals, the term, physician heal, heal thyself. Like it's very common that those who are actually shaping solutions don't avail themselves of those solutions. And that can be tragic, right? Yes. So, number one, put your mask on first, make sure that you're supporting your own mental health and well-being. And, it also kind of helps with that whole issue in workplaces around stigma. Like when you've used a service, you would probably feel more comfortable around speaking about it. Yeah. And when somebody sees you as, an accomplished professional using a service, they're going to feel more comfortable using it as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paula, for spending time with me today to have this conversation, teach us a little bit more about you, and for us to learn more about LifeWorks and AbilitiCBT. Thank you so much for being with us. And I look forward to learning more from you, and I'm sure our audience does as well. Where can we find you on social media to connect with you?
Probably the best way is to connect with the LifeWorks social media account. And I'm all over that as well. Okay. So lifeworks.com is our email, is our website, and has all our social media links. We're also on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. And again, I'm Paula Allen, and I represent LifeWorks as the Global Leader of Research. And I'm hoping that we are also partnered with you and are able to provide everybody listening with the support to themselves and their families, especially during this very, very, very challenging time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us in the sound booth today. I hope that you found this information from this episode useful. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Julie Turney. That's I-am Julie Turney. And you can find this episode or this show on most digital platforms, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Thanks to our sponsors, AbilitiCBT and Rock Solid Entertainment, for helping me to put this content together for you. And I will see you again in the next Sound Off.